Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lily Knits YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to knit this adorable bobble stitch blanket. You can find the free pattern along with the written instructions on the Lily Knits website, which I've linked to in the description box below. To make this blanket, you will need the following supplies. US size 9 or 5.5 millimeter circular knitting needles with a minimum 32-inch cord, 7 skeins of Knit Picks Brava worsted weight yarn in white, scissors, and a large tapestry needle to weave in the ends. I've included links to the knitting needles and yarn in the description box. This video demo assumes that you already know the following skills: the long tail cast on method for casting on stitches, the basic knit stitch, and the purl stitch. If you are new to knitting, I highly recommend that you master these basics before attempting to knit this blanket. As you know, the first step with any knitting pattern is to cast on your stitches. As I said earlier, I am assuming that you already know how to cast on stitches using the long tail cast on method. For the purposes of this video, I'm only casting on 77 stitches, but for your blanket, you will cast on 125 stitches. And if you'd like to alter the width of the blanket, then you can cast on a multiple of 24 plus 17 plus the 12 border stitches. Don't worry if you can't remember that formula. I have included it in the written description of the pattern, which you can find on the Lily Knits website. After casting on your stitches, you are ready to begin working on the bottom border of your blanket. For the bottom border, we work 8 rows of seed stitch as follows. Knit the first stitch and then purl the second stitch. Continue alternating knits and purls until you reach the end of the row. You should end in a knit stitch since we are working with an odd number of stitches. Repeat this row until you have 8 rows of seed stitch for the bottom border of the blanket. Okay, now that we have completed the bottom border of the blanket, we can start working on the body of the blanket. Before we start, it's important to notice that the first and last 6 stitches are going to be a part of the border, which means we need to work these stitches in the seed stitch pattern like we did for the bottom. For row 1, we work our first 6 stitches in seed stitch and then knit the rest of the stitches until we have only 6 stitches remaining, and then work these last 6 stitches in seed stitch. Since we have an odd number of stitches, the first of the 6 will be a purl stitch in order for us to end on a knit stitch. If you're ever confused, remember that with seed stitch, you knit the purls and you purl the knits. Row 2 is similar to row 1, except this time we purl all of the stitches in between the border. Row 3 is where we make our first bobbles. After working the first 6 stitches in seed stitch, knit 2. We now begin our repeat and create the first bobble. There are many ways to make a bobble stitch, so if you already have a preferred method, feel free to use it. Insert the right-hand needle into the next stitch and knit into the front and back twice to turn one stitch into 4 stitches. Turn your work and knit the 4 stitches that you just made. Turn your work again and knit the stitches one more time. Now we decrease these stitches by passing each stitch over the one in front of it. And there you have it, your bobble is made. Knit 11 and then start the repeat of 1 bobble followed by 11 knit stitches until there are 9 stitches remaining. When there are 9 stitches remaining, make the last bobble, knit 2, and then complete the remaining 6 stitches in seed stitch. And there you have it, your first row of bobbles. Aren't they cute? I'm not going to show you how to knit rows 4, 5, and 6 because row 5 is the same as row 1 and rows 4 and 6 are the same as row 2. With these rows, we are just making 3 rows of stockinette stitch between our bobble rows to add some space. Otherwise, the bobble rows would be too close together and the end result would not be very pretty. After completing rows 4, 5, and 6, we are ready to work our next bobble row, which is row 7. Work the first 6 stitches in seed stitch and then knit 4. We now begin the repeat. Make 1 bobble stitch, knit 7, make another bobble stitch, knit 3. Repeat until the last 7 stitches. Knit the last stitch before the border and then work the remaining 6 stitches in seed stitch. At the end of this row, you can start to see the diamond pattern being created by the placement of the bobbles. From this point on, I'm not going to show you how to knit each row. I'm hoping that you already have a good idea of how each stitch is made, so I'll speed up this demo by showing you where each bobble should be placed on the blanket for the following rows. Rows 8, 9, and 10 are an exact repeat of rows 4, 5, and 6. For row 11, we continue creating the diamond pattern by changing where we place the bobble stitches on the stockinette background. After knitting the border stitches, knit 6. In row 7, we began by knitting 4. So by knitting 6, this shifts our first bobble down. We then begin the repeat of bobble stitch, followed by knit 3, another bobble stitch, and then knit 7. When there are only 17 stitches remaining, finish off the row as stated in the pattern. Remember that I've written out the pattern for free on the Lily Knits website, and you can refer to that when you knit your own blanket. After row 11, you've probably guessed that the next 3 rows, rows 12, 13, and 14, are just another repeat of rows 4, 5, and 6. You may also have noticed that we make our bobbles every 4 rows. The next row of bobbles creates the intersecting point of where the diagonal lines of bobbles meet. As this video zooms out, you can see that the next bobble row, row 19 of the pattern, is the same as row 11, and that the bobble row after that, row 23, is the same as row 7. Rows 24 to 26 are another repeat of rows 4, 5, and 6, and then the pattern starts over with row 3. And that's all there is to this pattern. You are now ready to knit your very own bobble stitch blanket. All you have to do is repeat rows 3 to 26 until your blanket measures the desired length, and then work your top border in seed stitch. Don't forget that you can find the entire pattern on my website, lilyknits.com. And the yarn and needles can be purchased from Knit Picks, and I've also included links to those in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the like button. I love hearing your comments too, so please let me know what you think. Happy knitting!